everyone, it's been a little while. Zannimask here with the Footwork tutorial, finally. So I thought I'd just start off by saying this is an advanced tutorial for people who already know how to do Running Man and the shuffle. Everything else from here on in is basically just expansion and kind of tips to make it more interesting. So one of the first things I want to talk about is keeping balance. It's really important to stay balanced when shuffling because you might just fall over and hurt yourself. So the main thing is have a mastery of your center of gravity. Kind of just know exactly when you're going to fall, where you're most comfortable, and how to deal with that. Secondly, I wanted to give a couple of inspirations of people with good footwork, not necessarily shufflers, although some of them are, and just kind of take some stuff from them and see what you like.
Hey, don't talk to me that way. Don't talk to me that way. I don't ever wanna hear you say anything, 'cause you
My third point is a bit of a contrast to the first one, in which it's more about shifting your momentum and body weight to kind of give it an interesting effect. You'll see some shufflers, they kind of go on a bit of a slant just because of the way they shift themselves. And I kind of show you how to do some stuff like that. Alright, the next thing I wanted to talk about are different Running Man types. This is just kind of building on the fundamental Running Man that we all kind of know. And this is by no means a description of how to do Running Man. This is more just an expansion on different ways to make it look. So far I've picked up on 4 different kinds of Running Man. I'm sure there are more, but these are just the 4 I figured out, and I'll show them to you right now. Right, so those are basically the 4 I know going in ascending order of energy. As you can see, they're kind of different, but still the Running Man. Some little tips on how to do each one. The first of which is kind of very soft. Keep your feet on the ground. When you're bringing your back leg forward, just drag your toe for the first half. On the second half, put it back where it's supposed to be. That kind of gives it a very smooth walking feel, more like a walking man. The second of which I first saw from my friend Julian, who you'll see right here. You can see his Running Man, as well as the second one I showed, was very much scooping the ground when his front foot came down. And I guess the way to kind of do that is when you bring your foot up, bring it high up, and then when you bring it down, don't bring it out far. Just scoop down towards the ground so that instead of coming at an upward arc, you're going at a downward arc towards the ground with your front foot. The third of which is kind of the classic Running Man, I guess, is the one I normally use, where you just bring your feet up and down the normal way. Most everyone does that one. And the fourth is, I guess, kind of similar to the Malaysian style shuffle you can see here. One of the main keys I kind of figured out on how to do that is when you're doing it, to make it seem harder, when you bring your back foot out, when it goes out, make sure there's a very long stance here, because that kind of gives the semblance that you're hitting much harder on the ground. But when you bring your back foot forward, instead of bringing your foot up like this, try to keep your shin perpendicular with the ground and and kind of drag your whole leg up like that. It kind of gives a semblance that you're gonna make a huge stomping motion, and that really works well for harder music. The one thing about the ascending order in terms of smoothness is that the less smooth you go, and the harder you get, the harder it is to control. The smooth running man is very tight, and so it's really easy to control all those muscles. Sometimes, like, it's just subtler, so you can do more with it. And as you increase in intensity in terms of the movement, it becomes harder to control because it's more about the stomp and less about the technique. I'm not saying that one's worse than the other, I'm just saying that that's how it is. It's just harder to control Malaysian shuffle than it is to control the really running, walking man. Now, some shufflers you'll see mostly from the 2007, 2008 era, and of course a lot of people who are inspired by them, they like to shuffle in a kind of side to side, moving their entire body from one place to the other place motion, which is totally fine. I mean, it's really cool looking. It looks like you're actually gliding across the ground, which is what 2007, 2008 was all about in terms of shuffling. One of the things that kind of gets in the way of that is the T-step. Because it's going from ball of the foot to heel of the foot, you can only really get so much momentum out of that to not really propel you very far. One of the ways that people kind of get around that is by foot scooting. Now, foot scooting is not T-step. It's where basically you just kind of pull your foot along with you while you're stomping with the other one. That's not the technique, it's not good, you shouldn't do it. A lot of really famous shufflers like Tim and Sacco have been known to do some foot scooting in their time, and to be honest, as interesting and exciting as their shuffling looks, especially Tim because of all the tricks he does, they aren't properly doing the technique, which means I can't really love them as much as they kind of deserve for looking that interesting. But if you do want to cover more distance with T-step, which I highly recommend because it's half of the dance, there is a way you can do it, which is kind of cheating a little bit, but if you're properly doing T-step, it should be okay. Basically, instead of just focusing all of your energy on the ball of the foot and the heel of the foot, try to add some bit of a kick, throwing your weight from this position out that way, so that you kind of propel yourself. It's kind of like foot scooting, but you still must torque your ankle. That is what has to happen because that is the T-step. So as you can see, this is how T-step looks when it's just, you know, in the classic form, doesn't get you very far. The next version, you see, it does propel you more. And it's not exactly foot scooting because I'm still performing the T-step technique, I'm just not staying on the ground the whole time. So it's a bit of an increase in hops. Now the last point about increasing the way you hop brings me to our next point, which is kind of one of the most important parts of shuffling, which is staying on beat. And the best way to stay on beat is to basically keep the hopping motion at the right pace. You'll notice from the songs, when you dance, every time the beat hits, you're doing two movements. There's beat, step, beat, or, you know, beat, step, beat. You have to make sure you hop twice as fast as the beat, but you have to make sure you're also doing the techniques while you're doing it. Now, the staying with the hops is very important for spins, because if you do a spin and you break that cycle, you're gonna have a hard time getting back on beat. So when you spin, make sure you keep the hopping active. You'll still look like you're spinning totally smoothly, but your foot will be scooting in the da-da-da-da-da-da, like it should. So that's a bit of a really good point as to how to fix your way into the beat so you don't get sidetracked, just keep that hopping constant. However, my next point is finding a way to turn that to your advantage by kind of breaking the rule. It's fun to kind of get out of those hops, but keep time in your head so you can provide some really interesting tricks like slides and jumps and kicks and some things that, you know, you wouldn't be able to do if you just kept the hopping motion the whole time. Right, there are some shufflers out there who get kind of stuck in a rut with how they do running man and T-step. They feel like they're just going up and down and up and down over and over again, and they don't really know what to do apart from that. I mean, they have some kicks and they have some tricks, but they're not really sure what to do to kind of get more out of their running man and T-step. And one of the basic things I can say is just kind of start putting your feet in different places. It works both for running man and T-step. Because as we know, the traditional T-step motion is just straight up and down, but you can, you know, go in the front, in the back, like across to the other leg. You can go basically wherever you want. That's kind of how you do kicks. You basically just put your foot in the air. As for the running man, that gives you the opportunity to give you a lot of things like the X running man, the outwards running man, reverse running man, and basically anything you can put your feet into. Another thing that's very similar to this, where if you're getting in a row with how you running man or T-step, try just, instead of putting your feet in different places, try using different parts of your feet for when you land. The next little bit won't have an example with it because it's very much a personal thing with how you do your shuffling. If you find yourself just messing around while shuffling and you come across something that looks really good when attached to something else, use it. Just like find a combination of movements that works really well for something and then just start implementing it. It could be like a signature move kind of thing. Now, as I talked about before, shuffling is a very side-to-side dance. When you T-step, you go this way, and you T-step the other way, you go the other way. Running man, you usually go from one end to the other. But that really leaves a really huge door open for moving forward and backwards. Now, a lot of people do running man backwards, it's fine, and sometimes they do running man forward, that's fine. But what are you gonna do about T-step? I wonder, how the hell am I gonna T-step forward? Well, I'll show you, and it's really easy. All you have to do is rotate your hips that way, and then shuffle that way. This next bit is a nice little trick to use to kind of like interrupt the flow when the song breaks down for a second. It's really great. Just stall for a sec. Find a way to kind of freeze in one place but make it look nice. Another really neat trick to tie moves together is to shuffle as in T-step with both feet at the same time. Not put anything up, not put anything down. Now this opens the door for something that's incredibly useful, which is the reverse T-step. I can't stress this enough. This is going to open so many doors for you in that you can really just let loose and go in whatever direction you want. I tend to stay in one place, but you using the reverse shuffle at the same time really helps me do that. It's incredibly useful and I recommend it be implemented in everybody's shuffle style. And I guess lastly is find a way to incorporate some kind of tricks and things. Like I know some people have spins and kicks and stuff, but nobody really does anything that's really tricky except for maybe Tim. But it's really fun to just kind of make something up and then go for it and then see how it looks. I mean, just check this out. Alright, last tip. It's probably one of the more useful things you'll be able to use in this. I kind of kept it for the very end because of that. And that is, outside of the running man, outside of the T-step, outside of spins, outside of everything, find a way to move your feet in a way that other people can't. That's one of the most interesting things to do. Find something that nobody else can do. And even if somebody else can do it, at least you can too. One of the main things I like to do is, outside of running man and T-step, I like to just kind of hop my foot from one place to the other. Because it's a nice little sense of energy and bounce that I really like using, and I guess you can take a look at it now. Alright, so I hope this helped you guys. I hope I can make the next tutorial very soon, and I guess I'll see you later. I'll leave you with this.